What is up, YouTube? This is your boy Armaret, and today is Sunday. So once again, I am bringing you the next episode in The Walking Dead, and today they showed the episode of Carle. So spoiler alert, I will be talking about what happens and some little Easter eggs that I saw. So if you didn't get the chance to watch it, just turn back now. So I guess before I dive into the episode, I want to remind people, for those who don't maybe remember these two characters, the very first episode of season 1, I think it goes on for like episode 2 and 3, there were two characters, Duane and Morgan. That was the African American father and son who actually find Rick as he leaves the hospital and take care of him, and in turn he gives them some weapons, and then he goes off to find his family. So in this episode we start off with Michonne, Rick, and Carle driving in the car. So if you remember the end of last episode, they were stuck in the mud and being attacked by walkers. They actually kind of backtrack a little bit, and you see them driving down the road, and that's where our first Easter egg is. You see a sign that refers to Stone Mountain. So I don't want to give anything away as to how Stone Mountain correlates to The Walking Dead. If you want to know, Google Walking Dead and then Google Stone Mountain, and you could see the correlation. But so they're driving, and they pass by a hitchhiker who's screaming for them to help, and they pretty much leave. And then they fast forward to where they get stuck in the mud, and it's kind of funny. In the first season 1 and 2, you know, every time a walker comes, it's a big deal. Now, you know, Rick just tells everybody to plug the ears, they roll down the window just a little bit, and he fires one shot, kills a zombie, and they clean up the whole mess. And then Rick uses this as a little bit of like teaching moment between him and his son, in which he shows Carle how to get a car unstuck from the mud using some sticks and some cloth. And it was kind of cool, because it kind of reminds you of probably what he would have done should this zombie apocalypse never would have happened. And at that point, the guy who you saw who was asking for the help to begin with, you see him running up the road and screaming, and they get in the car and get out. So they make it back to the town, and this town is essentially, it's a town where the show starts. It's a town where Rick and Carle and all of them grew up, and the hope is to go and to find more guns, and they get to the police station and they find out it's completely empty. But they do see a bunch of barricades and punji spikes and signs that say, you know, keep out, last chance, you will be shot. And they kind of ignore it, and they went in, and they see a masked man shooting at them, starts shooting at him, says, you know, I'll take him out. And Rick agrees, so Rick decides to lay down cover fire and tells Carle, you know, get back to the car. And so the gunfire ensues. Michonne goes up to the roof. Rick's hiding behind a barrel, and the guy comes up to shoot him. And then Carle actually comes out from the alley and shoots him. And the guy was actually wearing body armor, a chest and helmet, so he was perfectly fine. And when they take it off, you find out that it's actually Morgan. So if you remember what I was telling you at the beginning of this review, Morgan was the guy who saved Rick at the very beginning of the show. And the moment that Rick sees this, he's like, no, I've got to help him, I got to save him. And you know, they carry him back up to where he was staying, and you know, there's tons of booby traps along the way, punji spikes, axe that falls down, and they found every weapon, not only that was in the prison, but in the entire town, has been gathered to this one area, as well as a ton of writing on the walls. And one of the phrases on the walls is the word clear, which happens to be the name episode of the episode, and there's a phrase that says, Duane has turned. Now Duane is his son, and if you remember, in that episode, the wife had already turned, so it was just the two of them. And when Rick sees this, he feels terrible. He says, no, we're going to wait for him to wake up. And that's when Carle says, I've got to go run an errand, and him and Michonne leave. And I'm going to break this, because these two parts happen simultaneously, so I'll break them. Michonne and Carle go, and because Carle says he wants to get some baby stuff for Judith, or little Kick-Ass. I prefer Kick-Ass. And what they actually end up doing is going to this place called King County Cafe, because Carle wants to get a photo of him and his parents so that Judith can actually see what her mom looked like. And in the process, they end up getting attacked by walkers, and they escape. And then this is where you see Michonne essentially become a member of the group. She says, hey, you know, I'm going to help you. You know, just sit here and do nothing. And then so Carle goes, "Oh, okay," and he leans up against the door with a bunch of walkers trying to get out. And Michonne just disappears, and like 3 seconds later comes back with the picture and a stolen cat figurine that she stole. It was kind of a funny scene because you kind of get to see a little bit of Michonne's personality. And if we go back to what was happening concurrently, um, Rick is talking to. He's waiting for Morgan to wake up, and then Morgan wakes up, pulls out a knife, and starts trying to kill Rick, saying that he's wearing a dead man mask. Because at this point, Morgan's completely snapped. And a tussle ensues, and Morgan actually stabs Rick in the chest, and then Rick is able to subdue him, and he's begging to be killed, and Rick won't do it. And so, of course, Rick bandages himself up, and the two of them begin talking. And that's when we find out how Duane dies. And essentially what happens is Rick gave the gun to Morgan so that he could kill his wife who had turned, and he just never did it. So one day while they were on a food run, he went down into a basement. Duane stayed up at the top, and when he turned around, there was his zombie wife and Duane, and the mother actually ends up killing the son, and then he has to kill them both. And that is his snapping point. He disconnects from everything, and he keeps on saying, "Clear, clear, clear." You know, he has to clear the town of all the zombies because he didn't do it, you know, when he had the chance. If he had killed his zombie wife when Rick had told him to, his son would still be alive. So now he's obsessed with clearing the city, clearing the area of all zombies. But Rick fights and fights and fights to actually get Morgan to come back with him, because you have this sense that in the back of Rick's mind, he sees that Morgan has snapped, and that if he can get Morgan to recover, to be okay, that he knows that he can be okay, and he kind of sees that part of his recovery process resides on Morgan's ability to recover. And it ends up becoming incredibly disheartening when he's not able to convince him to come back. And Morgan kind of makes this profound statement of, "You're taking a lot of guns, that's fine, take them, but you're either going to die by bullets or you're going to die by, walkers. Why would I want to be a part of that? Just go." So they end up packing everything up, getting in the car and leaving. And on the way back, I think they picked another great song again. It's a southern song, like almost like a country folk song. And as they're driving back, you're just looking at all this destruction and death. And they actually pass by the backpack that the hitchhiker was wearing. And at this point, you don't know where the hitchhiker is, but they stop, reverse the call. Carle grabs the backpack in, and then they take off. And that was the end of the episode. The episode was absolutely fantastic. Not a whole lot of action to speak of, but just to finally get that closure of what happened to Morgan and Duane, and how do how did things turn out for him? And it was really heart-wrenching and emotional when, because Morgan has this scene where he says, "Rick, you are a good man, and because you're a good man, you're going to die. And there's evil men out there, and because they're evil, they will die." He says, "I'm weak, and I will inherit the earth. The weak will inherit the earth." And it was kind of like this heart-wrenching feeling that the people who just cower and don't stand up for somebody else, or the people who are just evil, are pretty much going to kill each other in the process, leaving people who really just have nothing left to live for. And, it's like the perfect analogy for how things are shaping up in the show. But so that's it. Next week looks fantastic. It looks like finally Rick and the Governor are finally going to get the chance to meet, so that's going to be exciting. But I want to know in the comments below what you thought about the episode, what you think about Morgan and his mental state. Do you think that Morgan will ever actually join up with the group? And let me know what you actually thought about the episode. And as always, this has been another episode of my review and talking points on this week's episode of The Walking Dead, and have a good one.